Café Anyway. Here we are, Café Anyway.
Mike's Daily Podcast.
Welcome to episode 2877. It's Mike Matthews here at Café Anyway, somewhere in podCastro Valley.
Mike's Daily Podcast.
The last place on earth, somewhere in Ameritopica. And we got lots of interesting topicas. Perhaps you've been going to a movie and eating a huge tub of popcorn that cost you $30, and that's okay. That's all life. That's full of scorn, things like that. But that's all right, because here,
Mike's Daily Podcast.
As you would expect, Deadpool and Wolverine did really well at the box office. What they call this past weekend,
Mike's
Comic-Con weekend,
Daily
or SDCC now.
Yeah!
San Diego Comic-Con. I've not been. I've talked to people that went. I actually have a shirt. Somebody I know went and got me a shirt for the remake they did of The Day the Earth Stood Still that featured Jennifer Connelly and Keanu Reeves. I still have that shirt, and it says Comic-Con on the sleeve. And that was probably 2008. So wow, that's it's barely staying together, those threads of this nature. Deadpool and Wolverine topped the box office despite the fact that Deadpool is canonically verse. The Marvel Studio 20th Century Disney joint venture grossed $205 million domestically and $438 million globally, officially making the Marvel Cinematic Universe the first franchise to gross the $30 billion box office, to cross, rather, the $30 billion box office mark. This according to the people at vulture.com. Fans clearly wanted to see a movie where an Australian man pretends to be a Canadian and a Canadian man pretends to be self-aware. They wrote in this.
And here's today's podcast picture.
The podcast picture is not of Deadpool, but of yours truly. No, wait, that was the last podcast. It is at the library in Lafayette. Beautiful library. I'd never been there before. I went there recently this past weekend, and I thought the architecture, the construction of it is fantastic. So I took a picture. It reminded me, as soon as I walked in, I'm like, oh, Frank Lloyd Wright, rather. Well, I don't know if he did do that or not, but see the picture at mikesdailypodcast.com. Yes, Basil, I know. The late, great Basil the Boxer there. He liked going to libraries and chasing books. No, we didn't do that. I think I did tie him up out in front of a library once. I had to return a book. I walked with him carrying the book. This is why I say, if you don't like to walk, make a chore out of it. So you force yourself to walk, and then you get you burn the calories, and you get the steps, and it's good for you. The Deadwood and Wolverine promo cycle has been inescapable. You've seen it all over the news, all over your YouTube, your social media, anywhere you go. There's been countless late night appearances and endorsement from Taylor Swift, and spots on all the important internet shows from Ryan.
Life grand.
That's grand. Ain't it grand? Ryan and Hugh, they've been all over. And in keeping with the extremely online rollout of the film, the stars celebrated their box office win with a meme that was a take on the sad Wolverine from the original X-Men cartoon. All right. Right behind them was Twisters. Let's see. So that was a reboot. At number 3 and 4 were 2 kiddie sequels, Despicable Me 4 and Inside Out 2. And Long Legs rounded out the top 5. It's the horror film's third week in the top 5. Not once, not twice, but as many times as it likes, it says here. Okay. So there are a lot of cameos in the Deadwood Wolverine movie. By the time you have listened to this, you probably either seen it or you have heard about the cameos. And I have them for you here. Let's see.
What's the cliche of the week?
The first one is
What's the cliche of the week?
let's see.
What's the cliche of the week?
Oh, okay.
What's the cliche of the week?
I guess it's in picture form. There's Jon Favreau. He plays Happy Hogan, the character that he did in all those Marvel movies. And then there's the It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia star Rob McElhenney.
What's the cliche of the week?
McElhenney.
What's the cliche of the week?
And Henry Cavill
What's the cliche of the week?
playing a variant of Wolverine
What's the cliche of the week?
named the Cavill Rain. Of course, he was Superman in that reboot, Man of Steel. Chris Evans makes a surprise return as the Fantastic Four member Johnny Storm Human Torch. Years ago, when Disney bought 20th Century Fox, it was Chris Evans who tweeted, back when we called it tweets, he said, hey, that means now I can go back and play Human Torch again, as well as Captain America. Woohoo! So he made a surprise return as the Johnny Storm Human Torch from Fantastic Four. And let's see. I guess the rest, if you'll excuse me a moment.
News random.
I got a little of a clump there. Excuse me. Yes, this news random. Oh, Jennifer Garner. Oh my gosh, she comes back as Elektra. She was Elektra in the Daredevil movie that was done with her husband, or ex-husband now, Ben Affleck. And Wesley Snipes came back as Blade. And let's see, any other ones? Channing Tatum. He got to play Gambit, finally, after spending years trying to get a standalone film made. He's in it. And that's pretty much all that I will ruin. As we go outside of Café Anyway, we're bringing Mike's Daily Podcast somewhere in podCastro Valley, the last place on earth. We're talking all things entertainment today, all things movies. But here's one other interesting thing you may have heard, and that is Robert Downey Jr.
Mike's scavenger hunt.
And I'm looking through this and finding this, and my scavenger hunt. He's coming back to Marvel, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but this time he's not going to be Iron Man because, he died. Oh, spoilers there too. Oops. And all this came out because this is the big sci-fi nerd week. Anything having to do with sci-fi nerds and all that stuff that gets popular in this month of July. In this week, at the end of the month of July, because of the San Diego Comic-Con thing that goes on. And everybody reveals all their big news there. But he is going to play Dr. Doom, in Avengers Doomsday. That's going to be interesting. And it's going to be directed by the Russo brothers, who did all those Avengers movies.
For your entertainment.
Oh, thank you.
The one, the only.
Oh.
Mike Matthews.
Gave me a second to take another swig of water. And see, it will be the Fantastic Four will be the next two Avengers movies, according to Kevin Feige, who's the big guy behind Marvel, and has ever since Marvel came back or it became a movie studio, he's been in charge of all that. And Joe Russo calls the comic book inspiration behind Avengers Secret Wars the biggest story. He's one of the Russo brothers. One of the biggest stories Marvel Comics has ever told. That's the 2027 Avengers title. It comes out 2027. But they need a new character to introduce first. Dr. Doom. 2026's Avengers The Kang Dynasty has now become Avengers Doomsday because, well, the Kang character is not as popular as Marvel.
The Mike Tip.
Marvel was hoping for. And playing Doom will be, Dr. Doom will be Robert Downey Jr. And let's see, this all from, and it was written very poorly, as if written by a nerd who had not learned how to write correctly. From USA Today gave us all that information. Thank you. Someone got to go to Comic-Con, and they're writing as fast as they can, apparently. Now, in this iteration of the Fantastic Four, it will be Joseph Quinn who plays the Human Torch, Johnny Storm. And then Vanessa Kirby will be Sue Storm. Okay. What other things can I glean from this? I don't know. I haven't followed any of the TV shows, any of the stuff, any of the movies.
Wow.
Since, wow. What was the last thing I watched that was of Marvel nature? Oh, gosh. The Avengers before all the Infinity War stuff happened. I think I saw that. Oh, I saw the Thor that was directed by Waititi, the first one he did. I think that was the last thing I saw by having to do with the Marvel Universe. But, movie sequels are saving the summer. Last year, don't forget, there was a very poor showing of the third Ant-Man film. Then the Marvels, oh my gosh, that did horrific. It just cratered. It was the worst one of any of the Marvel movies ever released. Also, last year was a bad showing of the Indiana Jones, the fifth one that they did. That was the swan song for Harrison Ford in that series that he built. Also, the seventh Mission Impossible.
The Newsbleed section.
That did rather horribly here in the Newsbleed section, we find out. But sequels are back to save the movie industry. Twisters, which is the follow-up to the 1996 Twister, grabbed an impressive $80.5 million at its debut in the box office, opening the door for a third Twisters. The Twisterverse is going to be happening then, because once you get two going, or once you do really good with the first one, you have a possibility of a franchise, and then you have the Twisterverse. It's the latest summer sequel to find success. Audiences are craving familiar storylines. After Hollywood had its worst Memorial Day weekend in 43 years just 2 months ago, Inside Out 2 has made $1.4 billion globally since its release, making it the second highest grossing animated film ever. Despicable Me 4 has earned $574 million in 3 weeks. Gladiator 2...
Wine.
Well, I like
The whiny white man wine list.
I'm whining about how I hate how many sequels are being made. It just drives me crazy. Sequels, trequels, trequels, decatrequels. They're all just, it's all trickle. Treacle matter? No. Gladiator 2, Beetlejuice, and Joker 2 are all coming out later this year. Oh, and that also pertains to the world of streaming, because I saw one of my favorite movies growing up in the 80s. There was this movie called Time Bandits. They've made a TV show out of it that's going to be on the Apple streaming service. Apple TV. It looks like it's got Lisa Kudrow for some reason, because she was, I don't know why she wasn't in the original. And it's very loosely based. You don't have the people of short height that were that little team that was...
That's a nightmare of a show.
Jumping through time portals and whatnot. I know to some of you it sounds like that nightmare of a show called Sliders. Some of you loved that. I did not sit there and watch the whole thing. I did watch Stam Fine on YouTube. He reviews some of those sci-fi shows from years past, and he said it was pretty good in parts, but then it got really out there, and what's his name decided to leave. That was, like, what's that guy's name? He was in Stand By Me. he was in it for a long time, and then his
First
brother.
of all, I just want to thank everyone for joining us here on this show. This is great.
Thank you for being here on this show and listening to this show. So at any rate, at some point, those guys left, and then the show took a dive. So also in my whiny white man wine list, I'm not going to whine about Kamala. I'm not going to whine about what awful, sexist, misogynistic things are being said about her. I'm not going to whine about the process of, suddenly Republicans are all upset that, she's just suddenly become the presidential nominee. Well, for months, they've been saying that Biden should step down. For months, for years, they've been saying for him to step down. He wasn't even elected properly, they say. Over and over, they've said these things. And now that he's stepped down for the election, at any rate, and let Kamala take the lead, now they're all, oh my gosh, this is unfair. This is so unfair. They're throwing anything at the wall. They're breaking any bottle they can. It's a bar fight. It's going crazy. They can't come up with any succinct. I had one idiot say, she slept to get around, to get where she wanted to go. And like, as if we don't even want to talk about anything of that nature, of this nature, when it comes to candidates, because look at the other guy and his little picadillos. So what the heck? The arguments back and forth are ridiculous. But still, why they are saying these things about her, it's not like they picked me suddenly to become the presidential nominee for the Democrats. Or they picked, God forbid, Eric Swalwell or Gavin Newsom, other politicians from the fine Golden State. They picked Kamala. She was the vice president. What else? If he would have died, she would have become president anyway. What did it? It's ridiculous, the arguments I hear. During the Democratic presidential primaries in 2020, Kamala ran as a progressive to the left of Joe Biden. She supported Medicare for all, that government plan that would cover all, not just retirees, along with other policies similar to Bernie Sanders' agenda. Biden backed an approach more to the middle. Harris is now the most likely Democrat to win the presidential nomination. Though Harris started out more liberal, she's likely to stick with nearly all of the Biden policies to appeal to the middle, moderate voters. The big issues for the next president will be, at the end of 2025, the expiration of some of the Trump tax cuts now dominates the political agenda, essentially the biggest issue in the next 4 years. This all from Rob Black. I produce his podcast. He is heard on the radio Monday through Friday on AM 1220 KDOW and Monday through Thursday on TV on Cron TV, and covers all things financial. Biden favors higher taxes for individuals earning more than $400,000 per year and wants a hike in the corporate tax rate. Biden tried to impose some progressive policies and came up short. The most notable example of this is the student debt relief that he tried to get passed. Courts blocked much of what he has tried to do. Medicare for all has disappeared as an issue. It was never plausible, given it would obliterate the employer-provided health care system, which covers nearly half of all Americans and works well for many of them. Many of Biden's policies are popular. Biden's plan to raise taxes on businesses and the wealthy to help stabilize Medicare and Social Security and get the national debt under control. Those are all part of his plans. So that will then move on with Kamala. But yes, that is what we are looking at. And we'll see. This is about as political as I get on this show. However, she did see a surge in big money support after Biden dropped out of the race. After everything, despite what everybody who hates her and hates everything Democratic or anything having to do with the Democrats, They're like, oh, no, she didn't make any money. She didn't get any support. Oh, no, she is riding a wave. She has a wave going at this point. What will happen to it once actual issues prop up, once actual policy is discussed? Right now, no policy is being discussed. With Kamala's camp, with Trump's camp, no policy. So it's just all school ground crap. Just the lowest common denominator, just pus. And this needs to change. And policies need to be discussed. The progressive donation platform Act Blue said it raised $27.5 million from small dollar donors in the 5 hours after Biden endorsed Harris. And then there is the folks, what do we call super PAC that was backing Miss, not the other one with the H. You got Kamala Harris and you've got Haley. That's right. Nikki Haley. The name just blocked out of my head. Had a Biden moment. Nikki Haley's supporters, a lot of them that put together a super PAC are now switching over to Kamala Harris. And they're calling it Nikki Haley supporters for Kamala, which I think it would sound better as Haley supporters for Harris. Same last name, first initial. So that's going on despite the fact Nikki Haley's like, no, don't do that. She's a Democrat. I'm a Republican. Look what's going on. Stop. And that's all I have for you politically. The flight cancellations that were caused by the worldwide tech outage that happened with the whole thing having to do with, what are they called? Crypto wall or something, some scary name that I'm blocking out of my head at the moment. The weekend, it moved into the weekend, one of the worst weekend worst travel weekends ever. Delta was hit hardest with 7,200 flights canceled and another 550 flights canceled by Southwest Airlines. And Southwest Airlines is also having problems with the soda cans exploding due to sky-high temperatures and some 20 flight attendants that were hurt, one requiring stitches because of these exploding cans. Southwest has hubs like Phoenix, Las Vegas, Austin, Dallas, Houston, and Sacramento that are all very hot areas during the summer right now. Although, in the Bay Area, we recently cooled down tremendously. It was crazy on Saturday. Part of the reason why I went to Lafayette was I was cold in PodCastro Valley. So cold. I'm like, this is summer? Wait, what? And I actually missed the sun. So I thought, I'll go inland to Lafayette. And I took BART, and it wasn't gross. I was very surprised. There wasn't a bunch of homeless. I was very surprised. I did have to stay at wait at the Lake Merritt station for about 20 minutes. But I didn't see any creepy people or anything. And eventually got to Lafayette. It was great. I was very impressed with that BART ride. One of the few times I had an enjoyable BART ride. But yes, it has cooled down a little bit here. Let's see. We're outside a Café Anyway, is what I'm trying to say. Somewhere in PodCastro Valley. Let's see. What was that thing called that happened? It was the people over at the CrowdStrike. That's it. That name just does not even stick in my head. CrowdStrike. Gosh. So, and they say there's a phishing alert and a cyber attack on post-outage CrowdStrike users. So be careful. Is that... now that headline just flew away. Okay. Well, that was out there for a second. Take that with a grain of salt. Or, as the British say, take it with a pinch of salt. Look who is here. Outside a Café Anyway, somewhere in PodCastro Valley. Hello, Michael Mashu and Madame Rootabega. All is that very interesting. Ooh. Do you like CrowdStrike? Yes. Do you like cybersecurity? Yes. Do you like Wolverine? No. Wow. Not everyone is I thought everybody liked Hugh Jackman. What's up with that? And he plays a Canadian in this movie, but he's an Australian. Spoilers. Look who else is here. Oh my, this is Floyd the Floorman. And this here is Valentino the parking attendant. And this is Bison Bentley. Do you know that? Mike, we're starting a superhero movie franchise, D. Yeah, it's going to be the Bison Bentley verse. Do you know that? Bison Bentley verse. Huh. It could be the Floyd the Floor verse. Or I'm just trying to help you guys out. That's okay, Mike. We don't need your help. Because I'm Floyd the Floorman. And this is Valentino the parking attendant. Why are we doing this all over again, D? Yeah, why? Do you know that? I think why is because we have to end the show and give out the phone number.
Call Mike at the Café Anyway hotline. Area code 510-228-4640. Will you shut ups? Liberty Nation Freedom Phone for All.
And conclude in a very bizarre and awkward way. But thank you so much for listening, and tell all your friends, because this is a podcast that has absolutely no advertising budget. And it just is a word of mouth thing. And that's all I do is thank you for spreading the word. But if you want to find out anything else to do with the podcast, all things Mike's Daily Podcast, and you would like to find out where to see the podcast picture and all that, we go to the mainframe and hear from A-Frame.
Mike's Daily Podcast is written and produced and performed by Mike Matthews. His podcast is super easy to find. Download or listen to his show and read his blog at mikesdailypodcast.com. Email Mike now at mikesdailypodcast@gmail.com. See you tomorrow. Bye.